Hello, everyone, and welcome to our annual meeting and awards celebration. My name is Carrie Graves, and I am honored to serve as the Executive Director of NAMI Metropolitan Baltimore. I want to thank you all for joining us once again virtually for our annual meeting and awards. Despite the turbulence of the last year, we have so much to celebrate. Our community needed us more than ever, and we have responded. And we couldn't have done it without you, our advocates, volunteers, donors, and friends. Our mission at NAMI Metro Baltimore is to improve the lives of all individuals living with mental health conditions, their families and communities through education, support, and advocacy. Our programs reach peers, caregivers, professionals, police officers, college students, and others in every corner of Baltimore City and Baltimore County. I am incredibly proud to say that every one of our programs has been operating virtually throughout this pandemic. Sure, we've had our fair share of tech issues, hopefully not tonight though, but no hurdle has been insurmountable. Our support has never wavered. I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to thank the NAMI Metro Baltimore staff for their flexibility, endurance, creativity, and overall drive to support our community over the last year. And we were able to do so to continue this level of support because of generous donors and foundations that recognized that this was no time to back off funding for mental health programming. We budgeted for a deficit. We were concerned about the uncharted territory ahead. We anticipated canceled events, but we were determined to sustain our programming despite any fundraising challenges. And we ended the year in a surplus, positioning us well to further expand in the year ahead. And thanks to this stability of funds, not only have we persevered, but our programs have grown. Over the last year, we reached 9,000 individuals with NAMI's life-changing programs. Our newest program, Ending the Silence, grew tenfold, reaching students, parents, and educators in a year that was profoundly challenging for education. Our support group saw new faces, and testimonials from attendees told the story of transformative support received through open, honest conversations. And our I Will Listen program expanded from college campuses into the workplace, ensuring that employers for our future generation are educated on how to provide a stigma-free, safe environment. And we did so much more. But rather than hear it from me, let's hear from our community, our volunteers and program participants.
1 in 5 people live with a mental health condition.
I'm Phil, and I am 1 in 5.
I am Stephanie, and I am 1 in 5.
I'm Lisa, and I'm 1 in 5.
I'm Aliya, and I'm 1 in 5.
I'm Rachel, and I am 1 in 5.
I'm Andy, and I'm here for all of those in the Baltimore community who are dealing with mental health challenges.
I'm Felicia, and I'm here for my best friend.
My name is Naomi, and I am here for my community as a Filipino American.
I'm Tevis, and I'm here for my grandson.
And I'm here for my son.
Neo, and I'm here for myself and also for my community.
I'm here for myself first. I'm here for my sister. I'm here for my mother, my grandmother, my aunt, and my friends.
And I am here for my son.
And I'm here for me.
And I am here for me.
And I am here for me.
I'm here for me.
I have taught a peer-to-peer support group after being a participant last year. I've participated in Advocacy Day, and I'm also looking forward to training for in Your Own Voice.
I am involved with NAMI by being a member of the family support group as well as a facilitator.
I'm fortunate enough to serve on the board for NAMI Metro Baltimore. I also have for several years served as a facilitator for support groups.
I came to NAMI to advocate.
I came to NAMI to encourage.
I came to NAMI to learn.
I came to NAMI for hope.
In the past year, we've seen a rise in anxiety and depression.
And a sharp increase in suicidal ideation.
The need for mental health resources is more important than ever.
NAMI helped me during COVID by providing the support that I needed during such a trying time. I was able to contact the staff by email, by virtual video chat, also through my participation as a volunteer through the In Our Own Voice presentations, support group events, things of that sort really helped me in my healing and coping during such a challenging time.
I came across NAMI, and from being a volunteer, I figured there might be some services that would be available, and believe you not, I found so many things.
I needed help, and NAMI was there.
I needed resources, and NAMI was there.
We're putting our heads together for NAMI Metro Baltimore.
NAMI gave me tools that I could actually use in my day-to-day life to cope. And I got better. NAMI's family.
NAMI is important to me because it is a lifeline for those who struggle with mental illness and for their family members.
We've had employees who have gotten help for their children, gotten help for themselves, referred NAMI because a family member was struggling. NAMI really wraps its arms around the whole community.
I've learned so much just by hearing someone else's journey, and it definitely has made me feel less alone in my own experience as well.
Together, we advocate.
Together, we pledge to listen.
Together, we end the silence.
Together, we support each other.
Let's do it together.
We're putting our heads together for NAMI Metro Baltimore.
NAMI is important to me because I consider them to be the mothership of mental health resources. Knowing that I can call or send an email and it's a one-stop shop, I don't have to search far and wide for what I need or to get the direction to another organization in any resources. It has absolutely been a saving grace for me and an ultimate support system.
It's time to join us.
Will you join us?
NAMI Metro Baltimore is for you.
For you.
NAMI Metro Baltimore is here for me.
NAMI Metro Baltimore is for me.
So our attendees today will receive an emailed copy of our full annual report showcasing all of our successes over the last year. And as we now work to relaunch in-person programs while sustaining our virtual programs that have clearly filled a gap, we turn to you, our community, to ask for your continued support. If we put our heads together, we can achieve so much. Thank you for being mental health champions, and thank you for coming together for us. I am very excited for our panel conversation this afternoon and to gain the perspective from our three esteemed guests on how our workforces have been impacted by the pandemic and what resources are needed for recovery. We are going to be on a very tight schedule for this discussion as we have a lot of ground to cover. And Denise happens to have to be back on the air by 5 o'clock, so we're really going to speed through this. But we're going to try to save some space at the end of the program for questions from the audience. So if you have a question you would like answered by our panelists, you can use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Please just make sure you're selecting this box rather than the chat function so that we can ensure that all questions are received. With that, I am pleased to welcome Denise Koch as our moderator for this conversation. With more than 2 decades, Denise has been on WJZ's Anchor Desk. She is an Emmy Award-winning journalist and one of the most respected broadcast journalists in town. Denise is very philanthropic in the community. She has served on several local boards, and her current board service includes the United Way of Central Maryland. Denise has also been a longtime champion of mental health, both through her reporting and through sharing her personal experiences. Thank you so much, Denise, for being here with us this afternoon.
Oh, thank you, Carrie. I'm delighted to be here. I love the video that we just saw where they talked about getting help and then hope, which to me is the key of an organization like NAMI. So yes, it's very close to my heart. I've had my own experiences in my own life, as you said, 1 in 5 of us have. So I'm thrilled to be here and to participate in your meeting. Yes, as you said, I'm on a time schedule, so I'm going to plow right in and move ahead as opposed to sharing personal remarks, because I've met a lot of you, I know, at different NAMI events and shared my story in that environment. So the past year and a half, I mean, we all know this, the past year and a half have been particularly challenging for everybody, but specifically for mental health professionals. We just saw the numbers of people who have been dealing with the stress and anxiety that COVID brought to our lives. Not only have mental health professionals been asked to continue with their work while themselves enduring the effects of the pandemic, but they were also asked to rapidly adapt and to increase workloads because the need for their services was greater than ever. How many of us have lived through a pandemic before? None of us. And so the challenges were new and people had to adapt in the spur of the moment. Our teachers, our frontline workers, people in my business talked about it endlessly for a year and a half, are the true heroes of this pandemic. And that includes those, of course, meeting the mental health needs of a wounded community, a wounded world, I think I could say. But so many rose to the challenge, as we just saw, even as it has taken a personal toll with so little time or energy left to take care of their own personal needs. It's been tough for everybody, but in particular for the frontline workers, which of course includes those who are dealing with mental health challenges. So as Carrie just said, we are so lucky to have 3 esteemed guests with us this afternoon to talk about this, to talk about the ways they had to adapt and meet this challenge in this difficult chapter and what it meant as we now, please Lord, begin to emerge from it, how things have been changed, maybe forever because of it. So the 3 guests we have today have long, impressive bios. In the interest of time, rather than going through the whole thing, I'm just going to sort of give you the important points for each brief introduction. And then I'll open up with a question to each, and then we'll, as Carrie said, open it to a discussion, a real back and forth. So our first panelist, who I am delighted to introduce, is Dr. Aliya Jones. Dr. Jones serves as Deputy Secretary for the Behavioral Health Administration. She leads the Department of Health's team that assures clinical quality across state mental health and addiction programs, across 7 psychiatric hospitals, problem gambling, and suicide prevention programs. Dr. Jones has also served on the board of NAMI Metro Baltimore and has long been a champion for the organization. So thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Jones. Let's start with something that I know everybody's talking about all the time now, which is that before the pandemic, there already was a shortage of public health workers. This is even a year and a half ago. Now I understand there are reports, understandably, of people who are leaving the profession because of the stress and the strain of the pandemic. So if you already had a crisis, now you're even going to have a more difficult time filling these positions. How will this impact your abilities to meet the crises that have risen this past year? And what can you possibly do about it, Dr. Jones?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Carrie, for having me. And thank you, Denise, for your introduction, your kind words, and for joining us this evening. So yes, we are having a challenging time, just like the rest of the world, and how it is that people are responding and coping to the COVID pandemic. The public health workforce, over half of respondents who responded to a survey back in April were of 26,000 public health workers. 53% of the respondents had some mental health symptom or symptomatology. So that's half of our workforce. Then on top of that, because of how politicized things have become, we had 12% that had reported job-related threats because of their work, feeling bullied or harassed because of their work. And then on top of that, just the dedication that people have to the work during this time has made it very challenging for people to take care of themselves, which has been contributing to burnout without question. And when I look at my own administration, we were dealing with the same challenges that everybody in the community was dealing with. And at my team, close to 200 individuals, we lost 40 family members and friends between May of 2020 and probably June of 2021. That's a lot of loss for a team to experience in a very short period of time. And so we have been spending a lot of time working on creating a culture at work that supports the worker. And providing emotional support, offering self-help resources, and engaging our team in working on our relationships to get through all of this. We have been working to continue to grow the public behavioral health workforce, or just the behavioral health workforce in all honesty, by supporting grants to HBCUs for training students to go into behavioral health. We have also been providing free educational training for those who are already in the behavioral health workforce, so that you can reduce some of the strain that comes along with having to maintain certifications and things like that. So those are just some of the things that we've been doing, but we've been very focused on the workforce. We have created programs for counseling and therapy for other frontline workers as well. But those are some of the things that we've been doing. We've been very focused on this issue.
And to understand, the family members who were lost, they were lost to COVID?
The majority of them were lost to COVID, and we had probably a significant minority that were lost to other causes as well. But the majority were losses due to COVID. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty staggering. All right, thank you. We're going to move on so we can get to the discussion part, but already I'm astonished. Our next panelist is Dr. Heather Hartman-Hall. And for the past 6 years, Dr. Hartman-Hall has been a faculty member of the internal medicine residency at MedStar Health in Baltimore, where she provides behavioral health consultation and training. So beginning in 2020, she has served as a team leader for the MedStar Health system-wide employee programming for medical residents and physicians, supporting, how often have we heard this word, resilience and stress management for physicians, for healthcare workers, and improving access to and utilization of mental health resources by MedStar employees. Dr. Hartman-Hall, where do I even start? I happened to interview 2 nurses, shock trauma ICU nurses last week, and I could read on their face just what they have lived through and what it has done to them. And it's your job to create programs for these people and support them. And once again, frontline workers who have been through more than I can even imagine. How have you dealt with this challenge?
Yeah, thanks so much for this opportunity to talk about this and to really bring this to the forefront, because it's like having a small bucket and trying to put out a wildfire. That's how it feels. But there's also lots of signs of hope. So, what we've really looked at is how to address needs as this pandemic has rolled out. If you think back to the very beginning, at the beginning, it was all the anxiety, uncertainty, safety issues. This was such an unknown entity we were trying to fight. And as you said, our ICUs had to gear up fast and take care of really sick people and do it quickly. So in the beginning, it was really a focus on crisis response, both from a healthcare perspective, meeting the crisis, and then also taking care of people who were then experiencing the crisis as the helpers. So kind of a two-pronged approach to making sure we were providing safety and patient care, and then making sure we were taking care of our workforce. And, in the beginning, I will say there was that sense of purpose and calling. This is what we're trained to do. And that's still there. But what we see a year and a half later is exhaustion and fatigue and trauma and grief and moral injury. And honestly, at times, a public that isn't always supportive of our workforce and believes the science and doesn't take precautions that will help reduce the spread. So it's multi-layered. I think MedStar Health is an organization that's really risen to the challenge. They've put a lot of resources into supporting our workforce. My role expanded greatly during COVID. I was already doing work supporting residents and physicians, as you mentioned. Now we are making sure that we are thinking of every single employee of MedStar Health. Anyone that is working for us is affected by this. So we've shifted now to looking at how does long-term trauma and crisis affect people. How do you keep showing up for work when you are just seeing so many sick people and facing so much death? And how do we help you find a way to not let that damage you so much that you're not okay? And we're really trying to expand access to mental health support and resources. A lot of the things that Dr. Jones just talked about, we're trying to make sure are available to our folks. So, and now the good news is we're trying to build something ongoing. It started as a reaction. Now we're looking at how do we long-term build in resources that are part of how we do our everyday function. All of this in the context of, by the way, we were also trying to address racism and diversity, equity, and inclusion work and COVID, and try to make sure that all of our work is accessible to everybody and culturally sensitive to everybody, addressing those barriers for many people that have been in place for a long time. So we're building it as we go and trying to make sure everyone speaks.
Yeah, it was in my lifetime, my long lifetime, an unprecedented year. And I think about PTSD too, for certainly for medical workers, you know, burnout and then just exhaustion and then just total depletion. Yeah. All right, we're on the same things here because as we all lived through this together. So finally, let me introduce our third guest now. We have Samuel Rather, who has joined us. And Samuel is an educator. He is a leader, a lifetime learner, shouldn't we all be, in Baltimore City Public Schools, a transformational principal since 2014. He has spent over 14 years dedicating his career to fostering positive learning environments for both students and for teachers. So thank you so much, Samuel, for joining us. I appreciate it. We talk about healthcare workers, we talk about mental health workers. Gosh, the teachers too. I mean, they've had an unbelievable challenge last year. They have dealt with virtual learning, obviously, something we had to learn on the fly. Absentee students, hard to keep track of who's watching and who's not. Community racial trauma. I mean, through all of this, we also had the Black Lives Matter movement, and we had a very divisive election, obviously, which impacts teachers and students. Some teachers also teaching virtually and navigating the needs of their own children who may be home learning virtually. So I know that this had to be a strain. So how did this mental load affect your workforce? What did you see? And what supports did you try and put in place to, as a principal, to help them survive this, Samuel?
Yeah, even just hearing it again, it just makes, I had to take a deep breath again, because it's just like a reminder, PTSD. What I saw initially was just attendance falling, whether it be people mentally there or physically there. So as a leader, I'm constantly thinking about what needs to be put in place to ensure that people are mentally safe. There was a lot of things that were happening, and we have things that we had to produce for our school system, while at the same time still having to be a person, knowing that you're watching children at home, you're trying to teach on Zoom, just the multiple things that popped up. I saw a lot of, you know, mental health has really been on the forefront, like I would say, especially in our community, the African American community. And what I noticed, that past trauma has resurfaced because of what's happening currently. So if, you know, something that happened a couple of years ago just pops up and reoccurs, it's like, what are we really talking about here? And then I just saw a lot of anger, and I saw a lot of emotional people, emotional staff members, a lot of angry kids. You know, all of the housing environments aren't equitable. So if you're living in a house when you can kind of space out, it may be a little bit easier than if you're in a maybe an apartment and you have 4 or 5 brothers, you're sharing a room. Like, all of those things were tough for my population. So what I put in place was just being vulnerable myself, just sharing that I currently go to therapy, I go to acupuncture. I even started yoga during the pandemic. I started meditating. I sent out the Calm 30-day free app and just constantly push some things that were working for me. I had to show my staff and my team that I was experiencing these things too. Also incorporating mental health into the PD. So of course, teachers get professional development. So we made sure that we practice mindfulness before we start. Everything wasn't just business, because you can't just operate that way when we're in a crisis. Another things that we did for our students, and I just heard the best story that I'll share really quickly, is that we started morning yoga for all of our students. So one of the parents just called me and said, "Mr. Rather, what you're doing is working." I was like, "What happened?" She said, "My daughter, Madison, I was frustrated in traffic. I was getting upset. And she said, "Mommy, do your breathing, do the stress breath." And it just makes those moments like that, it just makes it worth it, because I'm pushing it in the morning and I'm sitting in front of my computer doing my stress breaths, but the students are understanding it and it's starting to come out when it's time. We partner with a couple of mental health facilities, Roberta's House for Grief Counseling, Catholic Charities to provide services for our students. And we're also working with restorative justice, restorative circles, to have safe places where we can discuss what's happening. We can discuss the racial stuff that has been happening in the world, and my population, which is 98% African American, like, how is that coming out? And then for my teachers who are, I have multiple races, like how having those open conversations about race, so that they know, all teachers know what they're coming up against. So it's kind of a twofold of working with students and then also working with my teachers and hoping that we can just lean on each other to build a strong, safe community.
What you said leads me to, and we're going to just open up the discussion, whoever feels like jumping in here, but made me think about the whole problem of destigmatization of mental health. And when you said you shared with everybody that you're going to a therapist, maybe is that possible, panel, that is a positive to come out of this, that people, even health professionals like doctors and nurses who perhaps in the past have thought, I can power through, I'm strong. We've all maybe hit the wall more frequently than at any other time in our lives. Could that destigmatization be a positive? And what do we do about that?
I don't think there's any question about it being a positive. I think the stigmatization is important because stigma is what keeps many people out of care and causes people to go off of a path that's been working for them when they confront stigma, perhaps in people that they know and that they love. So I think that has been one great benefit. I will say though, I think we have to be careful to think that that stigma is very easy to crumble, because it's not. And there are some parts of our population, some people, some groups that are experiencing greater acceptance of the fact that people can only handle but so much before they become overwhelmed. There are some parts of the population where that still is a very significant issue. When you talk about it from a professional perspective, licensing boards still have that box on those applications about, do you have or have you had a mental health condition? And that reinforces stigma, because people are afraid, if I get help, what impact is that going to have on my ability to take care of myself, my family, and to practice my craft? So in healthcare, stigma is still a huge, huge problem. And in minority communities, it's still a huge, huge problem too. So I think a lot of good work is happening, supportive of it, but I want to just make sure that people, almost kind of like when people thought when Barack Obama was elected president, that we were all of a sudden in a post-racial world, and we all knew that wasn't the case. It's the same way when it comes to stigma.
Very good points. And you sort of brought it up. There is an intersection also between race and mental health, which also plays into that stigma as well. So in order to ensure equal access to care, we can't separate mental health conversations from diversity, from equity, from inclusion. So what about that? I mean, you sort of touched on it, Dr. Jones, in what you were saying, and there are certain communities in which this stigmatization is more intense than others. And sometimes in poor communities, am I correct? And perhaps in minority communities, it's even tougher to admit I need help.
And there's barriers. I think the stigma is a big component, as Dr. Jones just so eloquently talked about. And there's true barriers, low access to affordable care, insurance companies covering only certain providers, many providers not even taking insurance. People who have medical assistance or on Medicare may have more trouble finding providers. And for people from minority communities, finding a provider who understands their cultural background, who looks like them, there's still a barrier there because we don't have enough diversity in the mental health workforce. And that's something we don't need to take possibility for improving as well.
So, I mean, Mr. Rather, it's not over yet. We hope it'll be over soon, but it may have a lasting impact. I mean, what do you think your community has learned by having to so rapidly adapt the way that they teach, having to do, to do things they'd never done before? I mean, your profession has never had to do what they had to do. What will be the lasting impact of this, do you think?
And I want to definitely hit on the question you asked before, like the racial trauma, like even seeing George Floyd get murdered on TV in front of our faces, me as a new father, being scared to know that if I drive and go somewhere, that could be me and never see my daughter again. And then adding to the whole stigma around Black male fathers and being present, it's just a really heavy thing to just handle and just walk through. So I did want to definitely share that, because of course, as I continue to support my school and support, my teachers and staff, I'm hurting inside myself too. And it's, what can I really tell my young students who look like me in a world where it's not showing that it's going to be okay and safe? So that's something that I definitely still struggle with and still try to remain positive about. As far as
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but what do you tell them? What do you tell your young students who probably feel what you feel?
Mm-hmm. So what I have told them is we have to do things a different way. We have to work as a community. We have to take care of each other. In a world that doesn't always see us as great or equal, like, I have to make sure that my students understand that they're special. I call them young kings and queens. They need to understand that they come from greatness. And once they understand that, and the ones who do, we already see an immediate change in them. Like, so that's what I've been doing. And I'm still trying to learn myself. Like in my intro, you said that you're a constant learner. Like I'm trying to figure it out. And it goes to your other question is, what I had to tell my teachers and staff is, like, we have to be flexible. School cannot look the way that it looked when I was in school, when I was in the back of the class in trouble, because I was bored out of my mind. School has to be different. We have to be strategic with the use of technology. Cell phones can be our enemy in school, or we can make it work and be our best friend. So how can we use what's the current new tools to make school more engaging and give students what they need?
Good points. Very, very good points. So we saw the numbers in the video before we all began this conversation, and suicide rates are on the rise. People are having more difficulty than ever. So is there anything other than money that the legislature can do? What kind of legal changes would you like to see to respond to what we've learned and what we've had to face through this pandemic? I mean, I think we saw 77 went to advocate in Annapolis, which is terrific. But if we were to advocate this coming legislative session, what do we need to fight for now? What's the change we need?
Well, I can tell you as a mental health provider, one thing that was a huge help during the pandemic was the ability to see people through video telehealth visits. And during COVID, there was a big sort of relaxing of regulations, and insurance companies quickly came forward to pay for that. We didn't want people face to face, so we gave them the option to see both their medical providers, but also their mental health providers through video visits. Now, is kind of the crisis, as you keep saying, Denise, is we hope over. Now there's talk about maybe that not continuing, and I can tell you that would be something I'd strongly advocate for us continuing. Of course, in person is better in many cases, but for many people, it really reduced barriers. People with transportation issues, people who can't take off a half day of work to go drive somewhere, see a provider, and get back to work. It just made a big difference. And for my employees, for nurses, physicians, people who work on the front line, they needed that flexibility. So that's one. Continued telehealth, and the other was the ability to see people across state lines. So when I couldn't find a provider for one of our nurses in DC, I could have them see somebody in Maryland through a video visit. Normally, you can't see people across state lines that way. During COVID, during the emergency, we were able to make that more flexible. So that's something that I would certainly advocate for us continuing, just to expand access and capacity. And the final thing I'll say is just back to what Dr. Jones said about not having unnecessary questions about mental health treatment on licensing and malpractice applications, credentialing applications for health professionals.
Yeah, I had no idea that that was there, but yeah, that shouldn't be there. Absolutely should not be there. What about, do you agree, Dr. Jones, when you're dealing with mental health, did you feel that the virtual sessions that people had with their mental health professionals were also positive? Was that something you'd like to see continue in that sphere as well?
Yeah, there's no question that one of the biggest boons out of this fiasco has been the growth of telehealth services, and telebehavioral health has seen the greatest, has had the most positive impact, or has most positively been benefactor of what's been going on through COVID. Telehealth does exactly everything what Dr. Hartman-Hall spoke to, which is with regards to reducing barriers to access to care. And patients like it. People like it. They want to use it. And for those for whom it's effective, and I would say for the majority of the population who chooses to use it, who has access to it, it is an effective form of treatment that we should be able to continue to use for the indefinite future. In Maryland, we have legislation supports use until 2023. We're going to be doing a study before then to look at impacts, and really the focus is on quality, and does having telehealth impact the quality of services that people are receiving? And that's a good question, because you want to make sure it's not just convenient, but that it's good and that it's effective. So but I believe that we will find that it is good and it is effective for the majority of people for whom utilize the services. So I think that has that's certainly something that we should continue to support into the foreseeable future.
Mr. Rather, I would think, however, you'd rather not continue teaching virtually.
No, I definitely want my students in person. Virtual teaching was definitely a struggle.
Yeah. Finally, it's not final for the discussion, but I may have to myself wind down. Obviously, we talked at the very beginning about workforce challenges, the difficulty of getting people into this profession and getting them to stay in this profession with all of the challenges that it entails, from the practical to the emotional. So what about workforce shortage problems? How do we attract people that we need? How do we keep them once we get them? I know you must think about this. I know it's probably a daily challenge you face. What ideas have you come up with that you can share with everybody?
I really love these teacher incentive programs that are going around, when they're offering teachers free Chipotle, free whatever it may be. Please keep celebrating our teachers. They are often going above and beyond the duty. I'm at my building right now. There are teachers still here, and it's an hour and a half past what time they get off. So just encouraging that, and also our educational systems to continue to give us like high quality candidates who are with methods that are up to date with the students that we are working with. Like if our students have changed, like our social media, the internet has changed education. So making sure that our institutions are updating teachers and really preparing them for what they're going to face when walking into the building. So those are two of my ideas, but I'm open to all ideas. We need help.
I'll pass that along.
Yes, thank you.
Unless you want to jump in which case, please do on that subject. In the past, we always talk about the connection between mental health and physical health. But I think the last year and a half, we've all seen personally, that connection is real. I mean, have you found people for the first time who always thought, once again, I can power through, I drink smoothies, you know, who are crumbling, and vice versa, their body affecting their mind and their mind affecting their body? I mean, am I wrong? Have you not noticed this more than ever before?
I think that that's definitely the case. And I think that it's been about allowing people to know that it's okay, that they're not okay. during this time. It's something I've been saying forever, but now everybody says it, but I'm glad that they do, because it's okay not to be okay. And now that we can acknowledge that, now what do we do about it? Let's not stay there. Let's get you the resources and the supports that you need so that you can have the emotional wherewithal and support to manage through the reality that's not changing. The reality is not, we still have to deal with the same thing day after day after day. But then we see some people who are making the choice not to do that, but the majority of people aren't making that choice. So how do you do that and have a situation where you can thrive through a very, very challenging time? How do you have post-traumatic growth? And how do you reframe what it is that we're experiencing in a way that is not so emotionally damaging and dispiriting and disheartening, that gives you the strength to tie your bootstraps up every day and say, okay, we're gonna make it through today. And does that require a therapist? Does that require, medication? Does that require going to the gym and exercising, or purposefully making time for your family and your friends? Yes, for most of us, it does require us to do more than what we were doing before. And I think for me, that's the big thing, is that people have to understand is that we have to do more than whatever we were doing before to take care of ourselves pre-COVID. We've got to do more than that. We've got to, if we were not intentional before, and we weren't, we need to be much more intentional about taking care of ourselves.
You asked a couple of great questions, which is, how do we do that? You came up with one answer, which is do more than we did before. Have you thought about some other answers? You posed a lot of questions there, good questions.
I'm going to ask Dr. Hartman if she has any reflections.
Yeah, you just named things so beautifully there. We know what helps people during trauma and crises. They need to feel safe. They need the ability to calm their nervous system and rest their mind. They need to feel connected with other people. They need to have a sense of belonging and connectedness and a sense of purpose. And they need to have confidence that they can do it. So those are the factors we're building into our well-being initiatives. That's what trauma therapists do. That's what we do to help someone who's been through this. So we need to build those into our everyday interactions with people. We need to build this into our organizations. All the things that Dr. Jones just said we need to do individually, organizations need to support this. And the work that Mr. Rather's doing in his school is a great example of that. Build it in every day to how we're interacting with each other, how we're building in what we do each day as part of our work, as part of our education. That's, I think, what can be different after this.
All right, well, is there anything that we didn't cover that you came here today wanting to talk about? Because it's been a phenomenal conversation for me so far, and I have to go in a few minutes, although you don't. But are there things that you came thinking, people need to know this, people need to think about this, that we haven't covered?
There's one thing that I do want to share. It's a program that the Behavioral Health Administration has been running since November 2020. Every other week we have, it's like a wellness webinar for people who are working in the healthcare workforce, called Helping the Helpers and Those They Serve. And our focus every other week is only on on resilience, emotional health and well-being for the healthcare worker. Because if we're not healthy, then we can't take good care of other people. And so it's a selfish hour every other week, and it's free. It offers free CME and CEUs for those who participate. We have wonderful speakers. It's only an hour, and we're committed to continuing to do the work, even as we continue to transition through this period of COVID. So please share it because it's available.
Great, that's great. And tell your teachers how much you appreciate them. And if you own a business, give them free discounts and free coupons.
You can send your school nurses to our webinar. They're healthcare workers. Send them, please.
School nurses, I can only imagine what it's like for them right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very challenging managing the different COVID cases and making sure that we're keeping students safe. So school nurses is a whole nother thing. And with this thing that we're experiencing with COVID and keeping safety as our priority, it fills up my plate, and my job is to be an instructional leader and push instruction. So it's just trying to fight two battles at the same time with the same amount of resources. So we're persevering and coming at it every day, but it is definitely a school year like I've never seen before in my 14 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think any of us have. And not to mention the parents you must be dealing with, some of whom are adversarial for personal reasons, that has to be rough too. All right, well, it has been a phenomenal conversation, and I totally appreciate all of you meeting you and listening to you, and I admire what you do. So I have so much admiration for what you do, as I know everybody listening today does, whether it's in a school or a health care setting or working with employees who are stretched beyond what they ever thought that they could cope with. So I so appreciate it, and every opportunity I can find in my business to champion you, I promise you that I will. And hopefully we'll get through this and we'll be stronger and we'll be stronger and more understanding and more compassionate on the other side. So I guess I'll hand it over to you, Carrie, and thank you very much for including me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Denise.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Denise, for joining us. We'll let you run off to get on air now. And thank you so much to all of our panelists. I think as an audience, we can all agree today that we'll do everything that we can to support our frontline workers and educators. And we just thank you all so much for all you have done and your service over the last incredibly hard year. So thank you again for joining us this evening. So with that, you know, we come to the sort of board election portion of our meeting, and the annual meeting is always bittersweet because it marks a time where board term limits come to an end, and it is a time to recognize the success of some of our board members and what they have contributed. Our board is integral to the success of this organization, and they set the strategic direction. They raise critical funds to ensure our success. There are ambassadors in the community, and they work tirelessly to raise awareness and build partnerships. We have 3 board members who have reached their term limits and will be rolling off of the board this year. So I would like to just take a moment to recognize and thank Brendan Lau, Phil Grantham, and Mary O'Byrne, who's been serving in an ex officio role for the year after her presidency, for their dedication to NAMI Metro Baltimore. We certainly appreciate all of the time and energy that you have put into supporting our work. It has not gone unnoticed. I am also proud to welcome our new board members, and I seem to be out of order here on slides. So we're missing one here. Oh, there we go. Little out of order there. It's okay. I am proud to welcome our new board members who will carry that legacy forward. This year, the Board Development Committee recommended to the membership the election of 7 outstanding candidates for service to the Board of Directors. Our members have been voting electronically over the last month, and I am pleased to welcome Stacy Bridenstine, Nao Gamo, Joey Martin, Lakeisha McClendon, Lynn Stefanowicz, Ken Talker, and Andy Wayne to the NAMI Metro Baltimore Board of Directors. Thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to your service ahead. So with that, I have the honor of introducing our board president, Steve Spurrier. But before I give him the virtual mic, I would like to take a moment to recognize his service to NAMI Metro Baltimore. For the past 6 years, NAMI Metro Baltimore, its volunteers, partners, and board have been fortunate to have the leadership of Steve, including his last year as board president. Steve has leveraged his family's experience with mental health to drive this organization forward. He has always pushed us to do more, serve more, and raise more. He's brought partners and funds to the table to sustain our work, and he has held countless leadership roles, from event chair to treasurer to VP. Steve has always stepped up to ensure our success. So while Steve's time as chair of the board is ending, we know that we can continue to count on him to advocate for us in the community. Thank you, Steve, for your many years of dedication. Steve, if you can come on video and turn off on your sound.
And getting there. Stop. What am I doing here?
It's not a Zoom meeting without some
Yeah.
technical difficulties,
Yeah.
right?
Carrie, I think we need to have it turned on your end.
Let's see. Will it work now?
Let's see.
There we go.
Okay. Hi, everybody. It's my honor to be here today with so many of you who have contributed so much to this wonderful organization. I came to NAMI Metro Baltimore as a participant. My wife and I were seeking support for our family and found that support through NAMI. We were immediately connected to NAMI's amazing volunteers who helped us understand our son's mental health condition and his needs. They created a community and welcomed us with open arms. They were family members just like us, navigating challenges just like us, and stood in front of us to say, it's okay, you're in the right place. NAMI volunteers are the heart of this organization, and this last year hasn't been easy for them. They have done what the rest of us have done, navigated the challenges of remote work, ensured their kids showed up for virtual learning, worried over finances, stressed over health concerns, and shouldered the anxiety that comes with a pandemic. But they have done all of this while continuing to help others, both online and in person. They led support groups, taught classes, answered phone calls, and shared stories. It is a lot to ask to step up during this extraordinary time, but our volunteers did it. We can't possibly read all their names aloud right now and still get you out in the time that we have allotted, but please join me in thanking these incredible people who stepped up for all of us when we needed them most. You allowed NAMI Metro Baltimore to continue to serve. We're grateful, and the community is grateful. NAMI Metro Baltimore had 79 volunteers give over 2,010 hours of their time. You inspire us with your unwavering dedication to NAMI's mission. You are all extraordinary, and you are all making a difference. Each year, we take the time at the annual meeting to recognize a few individuals and groups who do outstanding work in the community. We seek nominations from the community to determine our awardees. With that, I would like to share a video featuring last year's award recipients.
Hello, my name is Dr. Dennis Antoine. I'm a faculty member and psychiatrist at the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. I'm also last year's recipient of the Francis J. Lentz Mental Health Professional of the Year Award. I'm excited to announce this year's recipient of the award, which honors a mental health professional who reaches beyond the requirements of his or her profession to improve the lives of individuals living with mental illness. This year, I am pleased to announce that the award goes to the Supervisor of Mental Health Services of Baltimore County Public Schools, Courtney Brown. Courtney has been tasked with coordinating the Baltimore County Public Schools and Baltimore County resources to be able to prioritize and provide equitable social emotional health to ensure that the immediate and long-term mental health needs of students are addressed and supported in a thorough and lasting way, that students are educated fully on mental health matters, and that the topic of mental health is normalized so that all students can get the support and services they need throughout their lives. Thank you, Courtney. Your exemplary work and commitment to supporting the mental health of our young leaders, especially in such a time of need.
Hello, my name is Jamie Clark, and I'm the Senior Director of Programs and Community Engagement at NAMI Metro Baltimore. I oversee our partnership with the Baltimore City and Baltimore County Police Departments. The CIT Officer of the Year award goes to officers who have shown a deep commitment to approaching mental health calls with compassion and an understanding of how they can use their role to enact positive change. Our first award goes to Officer Carlisle Ritchie Jr. Officer Ritchie is a member of the Baltimore County Police Mobile Crisis Team. He obtained a bachelor's degree in sociology and is currently completing a master's degree in counseling. Officer Ritchie truly shows concern and empathy towards everyone he encounters during mobile crisis team calls. After one particular call, a woman who was videotaping Officer Ritchie's response to a crisis noted that she was surprised by how compassionately he responded to the distressing call. Thank you, Officer Ritchie, for the work and time you put into supporting our community's mental health. Next, I am honored to provide our second Outstanding CIT Officer of the Year award to Sergeant Thomas Smith. Sergeant Thomas Smith is the supervisor for the crisis response team and has been developing the new CIT model for the Baltimore City Police Department. Sergeant Smith has partnered with stakeholders in the mental health community to develop a program that teaches its entire police department about mental health, stigma reduction, reducing the criminal justice footprint, and using community-based resources to introduce those in crisis to the mental health care pipeline. Thank you, Tom. We are grateful for your partnership and your work in changing how officers approach mental health crises.
Hello, I'm Jim Anzalone. I've been an advocate for NAMI for over 30 years. The Marsha G. Pines Lifetime Advocacy and Service Award recognizes individuals who demonstrate a long-term dedication to furthering the NAMI mission. Last year, I was honored to receive this award. This year, it's my privilege to announce that the award goes to my friend and colleague, Ms. Sharita Brown. She works energetically to end the stigma and to enhance the understanding of mental illness. Sharita's contributions have included being a member of the Board of Directors for NAMI Maryland, a peer-to-peer class teacher, an In Our Voice volunteer, an Ending the Silence presenter, and she's also a social media influencer and advocate for improving mental health service. One of Sharita's major accomplishments has been writing Defying the Verdict, My Bipolar Life. This eloquent story provides a vehicle for promoting understanding of mental illness and the joys and sorrows that come with it. Sharita, you have demonstrated a lifetime commitment to raising awareness about mental health conditions for people in all walks of life. And congratulations for your recognition as the Marsha G. Pines Lifetime Advocacy Service Award.
Hello, my name is Michael Janacki, and I've been volunteering since 2018 as a Connections Recovery Support Group facilitator, as well as an instructor for the NAMI peer-to-peer course. And this year, I'm pleased to announce the recipients of this award. This award honors volunteers' exceptional commitment to our organization and the breadth of their investment of both time and passion in volunteering. So the first recipient is Phil Kaplan. Over the last 6 years, Phil has gone above and beyond through the In Our Own Voices program. His passion for breaking down the stigma about mental illness among college students and law enforcement has helped us advance our work with community partners. Audiences learn from his story, and he finds meaning and purpose in sharing his personal experiences. He embodies the NAMI mission and deserves the award this year. It is also my pleasure to present this award to Serena Love. Over the past several years, Serena has shared her personal story with countless audience members, including college students, law enforcement, and hospital patients. Serena has an incredible energy and passion for the work that she does with NAMI Metro. Her perseverance to recovery and personal growth should be honored with this award. Thank you, Phil and Serena, for your commitment to our organization and mission, and thank you for helping to make a world of difference.
My name is Nova, and I'm the Marketing and Communications Coordinator here at NAMI Metro Baltimore. I'm super thrilled to be able to announce the notable NAMI Baltimore Newcomer Volunteer Award. It's a brand new award to recognize volunteers who go above and beyond to push us forward as an organization. I'm proud to announce that this year's awardee is Sam Jessner. Sam has been volunteering with us since last summer, and since then has become a support group facilitator and is a big part of our NAMI Zine team. Sam has been incredibly reliable and has been keeping our support group going, and they are so creative, both in how they envision how we can make our programs more accessible to individuals, as well as how we can make our NAMI Zine even more impactful. Sam, it's been a pleasure to work with you, and congratulations on inspiring this award.
Congratulations to all of our award winners this afternoon. We're grateful for all of your contributions to both NAMI Metro Baltimore and the mental health community overall. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Steve, and I'll echo Steve's thanks and congratulations to all of our award winners. We certainly appreciate all you have done over the last year. NAMI Metro Baltimore recently moved our offices into a beautiful new space that will allow us to welcome volunteers into a lounge area where they can connect, mentor, volunteer, job search, work, and relax. We look forward to a grand opening celebration, hopefully in the very near future. I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment as well to thank our corporate partners over the last year that have helped us fund projects like the I Will Listen program. So a huge thank you to Exelon, Kaiser Permanente, Shepherd Pratt, SIG, Thornhill Properties, and Under Armour. We thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon, and hope that we've gotten your wheels turning just a little bit about the many ways to be involved with NAMI Metro. We have a big year ahead with very ambitious goals, and we invite you to learn more about volunteering, becoming a partner on a training or an anti-stigma initiative, or supporting us with a donation. Your contributions allow us to keep our programs free of charge. You can learn more about our programs or make a donation at namibaltimore.org. Together, we support each other. Thank you and enjoy your evening.